My son Luke tells me he's engaged to Madison, the daughter of a wealthy and influential family. He said it casually, almost too casually, as though slipping it into conversation would soften the blow. I was in the kitchen folding towels when he walked in, nervous smile, eyes avoiding mine. "Mom, I wanted to tell you before she posts anything," he began. I paused, one hand gripping a towel mid-fold, and looked at him. Something about the way he stood, shoulders tight, made my stomach knot. "Madison and I are engaged." I blinked. Madison, tall, poised, polite in that rehearsed way. Always in silk, never sat unless the chair had been wiped first. I forced a smile. "Congratulations." My voice came out steady, though my thoughts churned beneath it. I had seen the signs. The expensive watch he suddenly wore, the cautious way he mentioned her parents. Still, I had hoped it wouldn't go this far. "Her family's kind of a big deal," Luke added, as if I didn't already know. Their last name was printed on buildings, on museum plaques, the kind of family that only appeared in curated holiday cards, everyone airbrushed and smiling. I nodded. "I've heard." "They're different," he continued, "but once they get to know you, they'll see what I see." I didn't say anything, didn't remind him of what people like them tend to see when they look at someone like me. Madison had always smiled through me, the kind of smile you give to a waitress who forgot your dressing on the side. Luke rubbed the back of his neck. "They want to meet you this weekend. They're inviting us to dinner at their home." I nodded again, folding another towel just to keep my hands busy. "All right. It'll be fine," he said, half to himself. "You're warm, smart, kind. They'll love you." But even as he said it, his eyes darted away, like he already knew he was asking too much of them, or maybe too much of me. Something in my chest shifted. The kind of shift that comes when you know you're being measured against a scale no one warned you about. But I smiled, just enough to reassure him. "Of course, I'll be there." Luke confesses he told Madison's parents I was a retired cleaning lady who lived modestly to avoid them feeling threatened. It happened the night before the dinner while we were sitting on the porch. He brought it up between sips of chamomile tea, his words careful, almost afraid of their own weight. "I didn't tell them everything about you," he said, eyes locked on the chipped edge of his mug. "What do you mean?" I asked, even though I already had a sinking suspicion. "I told them you were a cleaning lady, retired, on a small pension, that you live in a simple place and keep to yourself." He said it like an apology wrapped in logic. "Why?" I asked, and I kept my voice neutral, though I could feel the blood drain from my face. Because they're sensitive about that stuff. Madison's family, they have a certain way they look at people. I didn't want them to think you were trying to show them up or something. I just wanted everything to go smoothly." I stared at him. My son. My blood. A boy I raised with pride and principle, now asking me to erase pieces of myself so his fiancé's parents could sit comfortably in their imagined throne. "So you told them I scrubbed floors," I said, not out of shame, but just to hear it out loud. "It's not that I'm ashamed," he rushed. "It's just easier this way. They'll like you more if they think you're simple, sweet, unassuming." I nodded slowly. It wasn't the lie that stung. It was the reasoning behind it, the belief that I needed to be small so others wouldn't feel small beside me. I sipped my tea. It had gone cold. "You're okay with this?" he asked, voice tight with guilt. I looked at him, really looked. He was still my boy, still the same kid who cried when he lost his science fair ribbon, but somewhere along the way, he learned that survival sometimes meant shrinking. "If it makes you feel better, I said. Then yes, I'll be your modest little cleaning lady. He smiled with relief. But inside, a quiet fire had been lit. I would play the part, but I would also pay close attention. He begs me to play along. I agree, amused and curious more than offended. That's the thing about age. After enough years, your pride stops needing constant defense. So I let him talk. Let him fidget and explain, nervously laying out the role he hoped I'd play. A sweet, harmless woman with a simple life, modest clothes, no strong opinions, certainly no mention of the companies I built or the investments I manage. Just warm smiles and empty anecdotes. I nodded along, watching him squirm. He was trying so hard to orchestrate perfection. It's just one dinner, he said. We show up, have polite conversation, and that's it. No need for extras. Extras. That's what he called my reality, my education, my years of building something out of nothing. Extras. I could have been insulted. I could have told him no and walked away. But instead, I found myself smiling. Not the smile he expected, but the kind I used to wear in boardrooms when men underestimated me. There's a particular power in being underestimated. All right, I said. Tell me how to dress. His shoulders relaxed. Just something simple, comfortable, like you're visiting an old friend in the suburbs. I know the look, I replied. And I did. I'd worn it plenty of times, just not for the reasons he thought. Later that evening, I laid out my outfit with quiet precision. Faded cardigan, worn shoes, earrings I bought in a drugstore checkout line years ago. I pulled my hair back into a loose knot and looked at myself in the mirror. I could barely recognize the woman staring back. That was the point. Still, I felt no shame. It wasn't me I was hiding. It was my light. Just for a moment. Just long enough to see how others behave when they think they're the brightest in the room. Some truths can't be uncovered until you step out of your own spotlight. I texted Luke. Ready for tomorrow. He replied with a heart emoji and thanks, Mom. Really? I set my phone down and sat in silence, thinking about the game we were about to play. He thought I was doing it for him. Maybe in part, I was. But the rest? That was curiosity. And something else I hadn't quite named yet. I meet Madison's parents, Mitchell and Eleanor, at their estate. Their condescension is polite but sharp, the kind that arrives in silk and smiles. Their home is everything I expected it to be. Tall glass doors, manicured hedges, art that looks expensive but says nothing. A man in a black uniform takes our coats. I thank him. Mitchell doesn't. Eleanor greets me with a kiss that doesn't touch her skin. You must be Luke's mother, she says. So nice to finally meet you. Her eyes trail down my cardigan like it's a surprise I came in clothes at all. Likewise, I reply with practiced warmth. Mitchell extends a firm hand. You raised a good one, polite, well-mannered. Not like most these days. His compliment lands with a thud. I nod. Thank you. We move into the sitting room, which smells faintly of lemon polish and old money. Eleanor pours tea into porcelain cups. Do you take sugar? She asks. Just one, I say. How lovely, she replies, as if I'd answered a riddle. They ask questions. Small ones at first. Do you live alone? What do you do with your time? You must enjoy the quiet. I answer gently, deliberately dull. I read. I garden. I take walks when it's not too hot. How charming, Eleanor says. Mitchell chuckles. A simple life. That's rare these days. Everything now is so loud. I smile, soft and unbothered. Inside, I'm taking notes. Every smirk, Every glance they exchange when they think I'm not looking. And your retirement? Eleanor asks, her voice laced with sugar. Did you manage to save much from cleaning work? Luke shifts in his seat. Mom's not really one to talk numbers, he says quickly. I rest a hand on his arm. No, it's all right. I did fine. I sip my tea. When you don't need much, you don't miss much. Mitchell raises his brows, amused. Wise words. But I can feel it, the assumption settling in. That I'm small, that I'm harmless, that I belong exactly where they've placed me. And I let them, for now. Mitchell scoffs at my humble background. Eleanor gives me advice on class. It starts subtle, like a leaky faucet. One drop at a time, until you're soaked in it. Mitchell brings up a wine from a French vineyard I've actually toured, but I nod along like I've only ever bought bottles based on discount stickers. You probably prefer sweet wines, he says, swirling his glass. Easy on the palate. I smile. Something like that. Across the table, Eleanor adjusts her pearl bracelet, watching me like I'm a smudge on an otherwise pristine view. I always say true class isn't about money, she begins, which, in my experience, is exactly what people say when they believe the opposite. It's about grace, subtlety, knowing your place without being reminded of it. Luke shifts uncomfortably. Madison doesn't even blink. I wonder how many rehearsals they've had for this performance. Eleanor leans in, her tone syrupy. I think it's lovely you worked with your hands. It must make you very grounded. It does, I reply, though I'd argue I worked more with my mind than my hands. Her smile falters just slightly. Mitchell laughs. Well, you must be proud of Luke. He's done well for himself. Madison's really helping him polish up. Polish up, I echo, like I'm testing the phrase. Yes, she's very refined. Eleanor beams. She has a natural elegance. It's in the blood. I sip my tea. Must be convenient to inherit it like a family heirloom. Silence. Just a second too long. Then Madison lets out a laugh that doesn't reach her eyes. Mom just means, no need to explain, I cut in gently. I understand perfectly. Mitchell taps his spoon against his glass. A signal, maybe. A change of subject arrives quickly, but the air shifts. They see me as small and expect me to stay that way. What they don't know is, I've been here before. Different people, different names, same type. I've learned that people like this don't fear power. They fear power that wears the wrong clothes. And tonight, mine is dressed in soft sweaters and soft speech. But it's still mine. They just don't see it yet. I notice things, subtle glances, nervous staff, locked doors, too many cameras. They've built this house to impress, but it holds tension like humidity. Invisible, heavy. The maid, Elise, barely makes eye contact. Her hands tremble as she sets down a tray of hors d'oeuvres. When she bends to pick up a fallen napkin, Mitchell barks, "Careful, that's antique." She mutters an apology, eyes darting to Eleanor, who gives a sharp nod, more warning than comfort. No one sees me watching. That's the benefit of being underestimated. I watch as Eleanor enters a room and Elise immediately lowers her gaze. The chef doesn't speak unless spoken to. Every staff member walks with clipped steps, like they've memorized where the creaky floorboards are. Madison doesn't thank anyone. Not once. When a server places a linen beside her plate, she shoves it aside like an irritant. I glance at the security cameras. There's one in every corner. Not the kind you find in homes for peace of mind. These are pointed, precise. Not for safety, but surveillance, control. There's a locked door at the end of the hall. Dark wood, newer handle, not original to the house. Madison caught me looking and slid in front of it without thinking. "That's just a utility room," she said too quickly. Old plumbing. Nothing worth seeing. I nodded. Of course. At dinner, Eleanor asked about my hobbies again. Do you still clean much? Out of habit? I smiled. Only when I need to think. She laughed. Oh, that's charming. She didn't realize I was thinking right then about their tightened smiles, about Mitchell's hand that kept balling into a fist beneath the tablecloth when Luke spoke too long, about the way their daughter glanced at her mother before answering any question, like permission had to be granted before speech. After dessert, Elise approached to clear plates. I thanked her. She froze for a second, then whispered, Thank you, ma'am, like it was a phrase she hadn't said in years. I held her gaze, just briefly. I've seen this before. Gilded homes that rot from within. Everyone here plays a part, including me. But the difference is, I chose mine. They're trapped in theirs. During dinner, Madison's father quizzes me, testing how little I know. The roast is overcooked and the wine is exquisite, but neither matters. The real dish being served is judgment, and Mitchell delivers it in bite-sized jabs. Tell me, he begins, folding his napkin with unnecessary precision, what do you think about estate tax policy these days? He says it like he's asking about the weather, but I know the game. I cut a small piece of chicken, chew, swallow. I imagine it depends on which side of the estate you're sitting on. His mouth quirks, amused but not impressed. Do you follow the markets? Not really, I say, letting my voice dim just enough. I hear the numbers go up and down. Ah, he chuckles, refreshing. Most people pretend to know what they're talking about. Eleanor leans in, her smile sharp. So true. These days, everyone with a podcast thinks they're Warren Buffett. Madison laughs politely. Luke squeezes my hand under the table. I play along. I keep the language simple. I mispronounce a French label on the wine. I say I prefer boxed red, easier to store. Mitchell visibly flinches. You must find this place overwhelming, he says, gesturing to the chandeliers, the crystal, the curated portraits of dead ancestors who probably owned railroads or worse. It's very polished, I offer, carefully neutral. It must take a lot to keep it running. That's the trick, he replies. You run it before it runs you. His tone is light, but the subtext is acid. I'm not the kind of woman they expected their daughter to be seen with. I'm not supposed to keep up. But I do. And that irritates him more than if I'd corrected him. I know this type. Men who smile through their fear of irrelevance, who measure worth by acquisition, not depth. I've been asked harder questions by harder men. The difference is, those men knew when to stop underestimating me. Mitchell hasn't yet. So I let him keep going. The more he talks, the more he reveals. And I, the poor, clueless mother, sip my boxed wine in my head and file everything away. I overhear Madison mocking Luke for being too trusting. My heart clenches. It's late. Dinner is done, and the guests have moved to digestives and soft jazz. I excuse myself to the powder room, but I take a longer path, slipping past the dim hallway near the back staircase. That's when I hear them. Madison and one of her cousins, tucked in a room just off the corridor. Her voice is clear, amused. He's sweet and a little bit clueless. The cousin laughs. You mean manageable. Exactly, she whispers. You should have seen how fast he offered to pay off my student loans. Said he didn't want me to start our life in debt. She puts on a fake earnest tone that makes them both crack up. My feet stay rooted to the floor. My hands curl slowly into fists. And the prenup? The cousin asks. Did he push for one? No, Madison says. His mom didn't either. I think she's just happy to be included. She looked like she'd never even seen a chandelier before. They both laugh again. It's sharp and gleaming. The kind of laugh you can't unhear. Honestly, Madison continues, he's perfect for me right now. He's loyal, easy, and he worships me. Like worships. The cousin sighs. Must be nice. It is, she says. I just have to keep him from getting ideas. Once we're married, I'll get him to move his accounts, combine assets. You know how it is. The cousin hums in agreement. Smart girl. I step back quietly, retrace my path to the front hall. My pulse pounds in my ears. My son, my kind, gentle, brilliant boy, being used like a stepping stone. And me? I'm the accessory she tolerates for now. I return to the main room, fixing my expression. Luke smiles at me from across the space, eyes full of warmth. I smile back, steady and calm. But inside, something shifts. Something sharp and cold and clear. Madison thinks Luke is manageable. She has no idea the kind of woman who raised him. Madison shows off an heirloom ring. Something about it feels off. It's the next morning, during brunch. The sunlight through the tall windows falls in flattering patches, as if even the house wants to be seen in its best light. Madison arrives late, wearing a robe that probably costs more than my monthly mortgage used to, hair artfully tousled like she'd just stepped off a runway. She kisses Luke on the cheek and then waves her left hand like a debutante practicing for a gala. Oh, I forgot to show you all, she says, as if she hadn't been waiting for this exact moment. Grandmother gave me the Kingston ring for the engagement. Everyone leans in. Eleanor, Mitchell, the cousin from last night, all with rehearsed gasps and admiring sighs. The ring is huge. An oval sapphire set in a nest of diamonds, vintage and bold, its presence intentional. It's been in the family since the 1800s, Eleanor says proudly, passed down to the women who marry well. Or who marry at all, Mitchell mutters, smirking. Madison twirls the ring like a trophy. It's stunning, isn't it? I nod. Yes. Very memorable. But something about it unsettles me. Not the sparkle, that's expected, but the weight of it. Too polished. Too staged. I've seen estate pieces before. They carry the fingerprint of time, small wear marks, cloudy edges. This one is too pristine. I lean in closer. There's a faint engraving inside the band, but I can't read it from here. Madison pulls her hand back too quickly, smiling just a bit too tight. You wouldn't believe what it's insured for? She laughs. Just in case. I smile softly. Wise. Heirlooms have a way of disappearing when you least expect it. Her eyes flick toward me. A subtle challenge. I don't blink. I've learned that people who guard things too closely often don't own them honestly. Later, I make a quiet note in my phone. Not about the ring's carat size, about the way her fingers trembled when I got too close. Sometimes it's not the object that matters. It's what people try to hide inside the glitter. Mitchell corners me privately, asking how Luke plans to support Madison. It happens after brunch, while the others wander out toward the garden. I pause in the hallway, admiring a painting I recognize as a mid-century knockoff. They paid for the signature, not the art. Mitchell steps beside me, hands clasped behind his back like a man inspecting inventory. You handled yourself well, he says. At dinner. Thank you, I reply, not looking at him. It's not easy keeping up, I imagine, he adds. There it is. The line meant to remind me where he thinks I stand. It's easier than pretending, I say, turning to him with a gentle smile. He laughs once, dry and thin. Look, he says, I'll be frank. My daughter's expensive, always has been. She's used to a certain lifestyle, private clubs, vacations, designers I can't even pronounce. And you're worried Luke won't be able to maintain that, I finish for him. He shrugs. I don't mean offense. He's bright. But his job, it's respectable. Not lucrative. He's careful with his money, I say, and generous with his heart. That's sweet, Mitchell says, but Hart doesn't pay property tax in this zip code. I meet his eyes, and for the first time, drop the softness. What are you really asking? Has he got anything tucked away? Trust fund? Inheritance? Hidden assets? You mean, does he have enough to impress you? I ask, my voice still calm. No. I mean, does he have enough to keep her? The words hang heavy. I look at this man, so used to transactions, not relationships. You're asking the wrong mother, I say quietly, because I didn't raise a wallet. I raised a man. He huffs. Just don't want my daughter tied to someone who can't match her. I understand, I say, but you might want to ask yourself. Can she match him? He blinks, caught off guard. I walk past him before he can respond. Outside, Luke and Madison pose for pictures. Her smile is perfect. His is real. I watch them for a moment, heart tight. Mitchell thinks love is a bank account. He has no idea Luke is already far richer than he'll ever be. I discover Luke has been paying for more than his share, including Madison's debts. It's a quiet Sunday afternoon. I've stopped by his apartment to drop off a casserole, the kind he forgets he likes until he's 3 bites in. He's in the shower, humming, the sound of water muffled behind the bathroom door. I set the dish on the counter and glance around. The place is tidy but tired. Receipts scattered near the entryway catch my eye. Not snooping, just noticing. Always just noticing. They're from the past few weeks. High-end boutiques, spa services, a luxury skincare subscription. None of them from Luke's usual haunts. One catches my eye. A jeweler's receipt for a down payment. Not for an engagement ring, but for miscellaneous fine pieces. The handwriting looks familiar. Delicate, curled. Madison's. I glance at the stack of unopened mail. A credit card bill is half tucked under a magazine. The name on the envelope says Madison Kingston, but the return address is Luke's. The balance due is north of $5,000. My chest tightens. I flip through more. Loan documents, past due notices, all addressed to her, all being paid from accounts Luke manages. I hear the shower cut off. The sound of a towel whipping from the rack. I slide the papers back exactly as I found them. He walks in moments later, hair wet, face fresh. You always come bearing food. He grins. I nod, smile. Your fridge was probably empty. It was. He laughs. Madison's been busy lately, so I've been grabbing takeout. I look at him. Really look. There's tiredness under his eyes, a weight he hasn't named. Luke, I ask softly, are you and Madison splitting expenses? He shrugs. Yeah. I mean, I cover most of it. She's still paying off some old stuff. I try not to let it show on my face. And you're okay with that? It's just money, Mom, he says, brushing it off. She's worth it. I smile, but it doesn't reach my eyes. Because love isn't measured by how much you give. It's measured by whether someone ever tries to give back. And from where I'm standing, Madison is living richly on borrowed devotion. I call my lawyer, quietly ask for a background check. It's late, well past midnight, the kind of hour where silence rings louder than noise. I sit at my desk, a single lamp casting long shadows across old papers and newer doubts. My laptop screen glows soft and blue, the cursor blinking like a metronome. I stare at the contact labeled Alan K. estate and contracts for a long time before clicking call. He answers on the second ring, groggy but alert. He knows I don't call without reason. "Mrs. Alvarez," he says, polite and sharp even at this hour. "Is everything all right?" "I need a background check," I say. "Comprehensive, quiet, on Madison Kingston." There's a pause, brief but thick with questions. "Understood," he replies. "Any particular reason?" I hesitate, fingers tightening around my coffee mug. "Let's just say I've seen too much, and not enough." He doesn't push. That's why I've kept him on retainer all these years. Loyalty without nosiness. "Give me 48 hours, he says. "You'll have everything." "Nothing official," I warn. "No flagged searches. I don't want this traced back to me." "Discreet is my default," he assures. We hang up, and I sit in the stillness of my office, heart thudding quietly in my ribs. Outside, the world sleeps, but my mind is wide awake. Too many questions have begun to thread together. A girl who laughs about my son behind his back. A ring that doesn't quite feel inherited. A father obsessed with money, a daughter cloaked in charm and debt, and my son, my Luke, too kind to see the trap being laid at his feet. I pull a notebook from the drawer, flip to a clean page, and begin writing everything I've seen. A ledger of small truths. I don't know what Alan will find, but I know one thing for certain. If there's something to uncover, I'll face it. Because if Madison is planning something, she's about to learn the difference between marrying into money and crossing someone who built it with her own two hands. The report is alarming. Madison's family has a trail of bankruptcies, fraud, and forced NDAs. It arrives just after lunch, wrapped in the clinical language only lawyers use to describe betrayal. Alan includes a short message. "Thought you'd want to see this before the weekend. It's worse than expected." That alone makes my stomach tighten. The file begins with Mitchell Kingston's business ventures. 10 in total. 6 folded within 2 years. 3 were sued by investors for misappropriation of funds. 1 was shut down by the SEC. Eleanor's record is quieter, but no less disturbing. A string of non-profits that each dissolved abruptly, always after raising significant donations. And then there's the legal side. 3 bankruptcies, all post-marriage, all filed just after acquiring new properties or gifts from wealthy in-laws. 5 NDAs tied to employment disputes, most stemming from former staff members alleging mistreatment or financial manipulation. 2 sealed settlements involving claims from former partners of Madison's cousins. One note from Alan stands out. Several reports indicate a pattern. The Kingstons enter relationships with wealthier individuals, establish financial ties, then gradually pull assets or credit into their name. Most targets walk away financially drained and publicly embarrassed. Kingstons walk away quiet, rebranded, ready for the next. I stare at the page until the words blur. I think about Luke, about how he lights up when he talks about Madison, how he thinks he's found someone to build with, not realizing she's been taught to take. There's a phrase Alan uses in his summary, weaponized intimacy. I've never seen it written down before, but I've seen it used. People who confuse closeness with conquest, who play love like a game of leverage. The Kingstons aren't just hiding a messy past, they're perfecting a method, and they've chosen my son as their next mark. Now that I know, I can't pretend anymore. Now that I see it, I can't unsee it. Their fortune? Mostly illusion. They've married into money before, and drained it. Once you peel back the layers, the glitz unravels fast. The estate? Leased through a trust? Not owned. The cars? On a balloon payment plan? The clothes? Rented for events. Madison's ring? Technically heirloom, but pawned and rebought twice. Their wealth isn't real. It's a stage set. And Luke? He's the latest ticket out of financial instability. Alan included a deeper analysis. Family court documents, tax filings, even cached versions of a few now deleted social media posts. They tell a story the Kingstons don't advertise. A pattern of strategic marriages to investment heirs, oil executives, property developers. A trail of post-marital lawsuits where the Kingstons walked away with alimony or settlements. A lifestyle maintained not by earnings, but by proximity to other people's money. Madison was groomed for this, raised not to build wealth, but to inherit it, to attach herself to men who would carry the weight while she smiled, posed, and claimed helplessness when it all fell apart. It would almost be impressive if it weren't so insidious. What chills me most is how good she is at it. She doesn't come off greedy, just vulnerable, just sweet enough to make you want to protect her. And Luke, for all his intelligence, is falling for it. Because Madison doesn't need to be truthful, she only needs to be believable. Mitchell and Eleanor have done this before. They let their daughters charm, let the partners fall, and then let the money do the bleeding. But they've made one miscalculation. They assumed I was no one. They thought I was a retired cleaning lady. And while they watched me smile and nod in silence, I watched them. Every tell, every glance, every weak spot. The game has started, but they're not the only players in the room anymore. I realize Luke is the target. His inheritance is larger than Madison knows. It hits me late one night when I'm sitting in my home office with the report spread across the desk like evidence at a crime scene. I read every page again, not because I doubt it, but because I need to feel the weight of it. Every deception, every carefully hidden lie. The numbers, the names, the lawsuits, they aren't random. They're a pattern, and at the center of it, a clear strategy. Attach, extract, vanish. But there's one line that makes my chest tighten. A note in Alan's report. No indication the Kingstons are aware of Luke's trust. The trust, the one I set up after his father died, the one Luke doesn't talk about because I raised him not to. It was never meant to be bait. It was a safety net. Money I earned through years of quiet work, consulting, property deals, small investments that turned into something solid. Luke thinks of it as background noise. He's never relied on it, never flaunted it, but somehow, people like Madison can smell it. I look at the ring again in a photo Madison posted online, that family heirloom she's been flashing on social media. I remember the smirk Mitchell wore when he asked about Luke's finances, how easily Eleanor said stability is everything in marriage. Stability, to them, means access. That's when it clicks. They don't just want Luke, they want what Luke doesn't even know he has. A familiar burn rises in my throat. I've dealt with predators before, the kind who disguise greed as charm. But this feels different. This is personal. They're circling my son with manicured smiles and well-rehearsed words, counting on me to stay small and polite. I stand, pacing. There's a fine line between love and war, and I've just stepped over it. They think I'm harmless. That's their mistake. Because what they don't know is that everything Luke has, every cent, every safeguard, every clause in that trust, runs through me, and I'm done watching. I visit my attorney in person. We begin planning, quietly. Alan's office is tucked in a nondescript building downtown, no signage, just a brass plate that reads A. Kim and Associates. The kind of place you pass every day without noticing, perfect for the kind of work we're about to do. He greets me with 2 cups of coffee and that calm, unshakable look of someone who's seen more greed than guilt. "You've read everything," he says. It's not a question. "I have," I reply, "and now I need to make sure they never touch a dime of his money." He nods. "We can do that." We start with the trust. I explain that Luke doesn't know its full terms, that it's structured to release in stages, contingent on maturity, marriage, and stability. But there are loopholes I want closed, tightened, locked down so thoroughly that not even a marriage certificate can pry them open. Alan listens carefully, typing notes. "We can amend the clauses," he says, "but you'll need a reason that won't tip him off. Make it health-related, a preservation clause, whatever you have to call it. I just want him protected." He pauses. "And Madison?" I lean back. "I want her exposed. Not publicly. Not yet. But if she thinks she's marrying into fortune, she should find out the hard way that there's nothing to take." He studies me for a moment. "You're planning something." "Just a test," I say. "I want to see how deep her loyalty really goes." He gives a slow, knowing smile. "You've got that look again. The one from the merger in Dallas." "That was business," I say quietly. "This is blood." We finalize the changes, arrange discrete asset transfers, and encrypt the files under new terms. When I leave, the city feels colder, but my steps are steady. I've spent years building a life people underestimated. Now, I'll use that same invisibility to protect my son. And if the Kingstons are planning to take something from me, they'd better understand. I never enter a fight I haven't already won. I revise my estate plan, including a clause Luke doesn't know about yet. It's a quiet morning when I visit the notary's office, the kind of place where everything smells faintly of paper and lemon polish. The air hums with the slow patience of bureaucracy, but I'm not here for ceremony. I'm here for control. Alan already sent the documents over. All I have to do is sign. We review the changes line by line. The trust remains intact, but I've added what Alan calls the safeguard clause. In simpler terms, a firewall. If Luke marries without full financial disclosure from his spouse, the inheritance freezes indefinitely. Not lost, not revoked, just locked. No access, no loopholes, no exceptions. I sip the coffee they offered me while Alan's assistant stamps each page. "He doesn't need to know about this yet," I say. "Not until it's necessary." Alan nods. It's not deception. It's protection. That's what I tell myself too. Luke is kind. Too kind. He's the type to see the best in everyone, even when they're hollow underneath. Madison saw that softness the same way her parents did, as opportunity, so I'm building walls where he'd never think to look. Before I sign, I add one more clause, one Alan raises an eyebrow at. It names a secondary beneficiary, someone Luke has never met. A small scholarship fund for working-class students, hidden deep in the paperwork. It's not about the money. It's about balance. About ensuring that if greed tries to take from us, it gives something back to the world instead. When I leave, the sky outside is a hard, clear blue. I feel lighter, but colder. I've never been a vindictive woman, but there's something sharp in me now. Something protective that doesn't sleep. This isn't revenge. It's insurance. For a son who doesn't know he needs saving. That night, I tuck the updated will into my safe. Luke still believes I'm just the quiet mother who once cleaned offices and retired with little. Let him believe it a bit longer, because someday soon, that story might save him. I return to the estate, this time playing even more naive. They let their guard down. Madison invites me herself, her tone sweeter than before. Mom and Dad would love to see you again," she says over the phone. "They thought you were just lovely." I can hear Mitchell in the background, muttering something about good manners. I agree immediately. People like them expect resistance. Agreement makes them careless. When I arrive, Eleanor greets me at the door in pearls again, but this time she doesn't bother pretending to be gracious. "You found the place all right?" she asks, eyes flicking toward my second-hand handbag. I did, I say, with an extra softness in my voice. GPS is a miracle. I don't drive much these days. She smiles tightly. Of course you don't. Mitchell appears next, his tone suddenly friendlier. We're just finishing brunch. Come in, come in. His shirt sleeves are rolled up, an attempt at appearing casual. The power dynamic has shifted. They think they know who I am now, and that illusion makes them comfortable. I compliment everything. The paintings, the marble floors, even the ridiculous floral centerpiece that looks like it belongs in a hotel lobby. Eleanor laps it up. You have such an appreciation for beauty, she says. It's rare in your position. My position? I echo lightly. Oh, I suppose so. Over coffee, Mitchell starts talking about family legacy and long-term partnerships. I listen, nodding at all the right moments, pretending not to hear the subtext that Luke's worth is transactional. Madison smiles at me occasionally, like she's humoring a child. I return the gesture. Halfway through dessert, Mitchell leans forward. You know, Ava, he says, it's admirable that your son has managed so well, coming from, well, modest beginnings. But you must worry about keeping up with Madison's world. I stir my tea. Oh, I don't worry about money, I say. We always have enough for what we need. He laughs. Too loud, too confident. That's good to hear. Stability is important. Yes, I say, meeting his eyes. It is. He looks away first. People like Mitchell never expect the mouse to hold eye contact. As I leave, Eleanor squeezes my arm. You're a dear, she says. Luke's lucky to have someone like you guiding him. I smile. I suppose we're all lucky, in our own ways. They think they've seen me, but all they've seen is the surface. The part of me I let them believe exists, and the deeper they underestimate me, the easier it will be to pull the rug from under their marble floors. Mitchell proposes a business opportunity involving Luke's money. I smile. I listen. We're alone in the conservatory. The others are out walking the grounds, a carefully timed stretch of the legs arranged by Eleanor. Mitchell pours 2 glasses of something amber and expensive, sets one down in front of me, and leans back like we're old friends. I've been thinking, he begins, swirling his drink. Luke's sharp. He's got potential, but potential needs structure. I tilt my head. Structure? A vehicle, he clarifies. Something that can grow with him, and with Madison, of course. A family enterprise, you might say. I nod slowly, letting him believe I'm enthralled. Mitchell lays out a plan, or rather, a web. A boutique investment firm with a romantic name, backed by Luke's inherited assets. He talks about high net worth clients, emerging markets, crypto diversification. He uses words like agile capital and legacy building. But all I hear is drain, control, exit strategy. He references Luke's upcoming trust access, estimating its size with stunning accuracy, which means someone has done some digging. Not enough to know how well protected it is, but enough to make them greedy. I'd take a backseat role, of course, Mitchell says, waving a hand. Guidance only. The spotlight would be on them, Luke and Madison. I feign a thoughtful sip of the drink. And you think Luke would be open to this? He smiles. With your encouragement, I imagine he'd be very open. Ah, there it is. The real pitch, not to Luke, to me, the modest mother with invisible influence, the one they think is flattered to even be part of the conversation. I set the glass down. Well, it does sound exciting, I say softly. Let me give it some thought. Mitchell pats my hand like I've just been upgraded from help to human. No rush. Family decisions deserve time. He doesn't know I already made mine. One of their staff slips me a note. "You're not the first." It happens just as I'm leaving. I've just crossed the foyer, thanking Eleanor for the evening, when a young woman, early 20s, hair pulled back tight, eyes lowered, reaches for my coat. She helps me into it, professionally, quietly. Her fingers brush my hand and I feel it, paper, folded small. She doesn't look up. She just says, "Drive safe, ma'am," and vanishes through the side door. I don't open it until I'm in the car, away from the estate's too many cameras. It's scribbled in rushed pen. "You're not the first. Be careful. They ruin people. S." I stare at the words until they blur. S. No last name, no context. But the warning is unmistakable. It hums with fear. It's confirmation of what I already suspect. No. Mitchell and Eleanor have done this before. Maybe not always with marriage, maybe not always with money this large. But the script is the same. Charm, manipulate, extract, discard. I look back at the mansion shrinking in the rearview mirror. I think of the waitstaff, always stiff, too formal, too rehearsed. The locked doors. The way Madison calls them by their first names without ever actually seeing them. Whoever S is, they've been watching, enduring. Maybe they saw someone else fall before Luke. Maybe they're still paying the price. Back at home, I place the note in my safe, beside the updated will. My fingers linger on the edge of the paper. This changes things. Not just because it confirms the Kingston's pattern, but because it means someone on the inside is still human, still brave enough to speak. They think I'm alone. They think I'm playing defense. But now I have a thread, and I plan to pull it. With a tip from the maid, I explore a locked study. What I find confirms everything. The note from S stays in my purse for 2 days before I act. Then, one evening, a message arrives from an unknown number. After 10, South Wing corridor, door by the marble bust. You'll see it. No signature. I know it's her. I arrive under the pretense of returning a borrowed shawl. Eleanor is upstairs soaking in her bath, and Mitchell's voice drifts faintly from the billiards room. Madison's laughter trickles through from the veranda, shrill, performative, bored. No one pays attention as I slip down the hall. The corridor is colder than the rest of the house, lined with old portraits. At the end stands the bust, a Roman emperor, smug and chipped. Behind it, the locked door. I try the handle. It doesn't budge, but the maid appears from the shadows, her eyes darting nervously. She presses a small key into my palm without a word, then disappears back into the darkness like a ghost who knows she shouldn't be seen. The lock clicks quietly. Inside, the air smells of polish and dust. A study. Mitchell's, I assume. Shelves stacked with leather-bound ledgers, trophies, framed magazine covers. But it's what's on the desk that stills me. Documents, arranged too neatly, bank statements, account transfers, legal settlements, and photos, candid ones, of Luke. At dinners, walking to his car, even one of him outside his apartment. Dated, logged, labeled Phase 2. My stomach drops. I scan quickly. A flowchart showing Madison's engagement timeline, projected asset access, marital property calculations. Under Luke's name, inheritance, estimated 4.3 Mausers. Verify. Under strategy, full integration within 6 months post-marriage. I take photos of everything with my phone, heart hammering in my chest. Then I spot a smaller folder, thicker, labeled previous engagements. I flip through and see them. Photos of men I don't recognize. Headlines. Settlements. Names blacked out, but the pattern unmistakable. When I leave, I lock the door again, wipe the handle, and walk calmly to the foyer. Madison calls out behind me, "All sugar." "Leaving already?" "Yes," I say, turning with a smile. "It's late, and I've seen what I needed to." She laughs, confused. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing," I reply. "Just, what a beautiful home." But as I drive away, the house behind me doesn't look beautiful anymore. It looks hollow, like a stage built on rot. I plan a lunch at my modest home, a trap disguised as hospitality. 2 days later, I text Madison. "Would love to host everyone for lunch next weekend. Something simple, my treat." Her reply comes fast. "That sounds adorable. I'll tell my parents." Adorable. Perfect. That's exactly what I want her to think. I spend the next few days preparing, not a feast, not luxury, just warmth. My home looks exactly as Luke described it to them. Small, tidy, comfortable. The kind of place where people like the Kingstons exhale because they think they're among the harmless. I keep the decor humble: chipped mugs, hand-me-down dishes, a slightly uneven tablecloth. But what they won't see are the cameras. Discreet, silent, placed by a friend who owes me a favor. Every word, every glance, every shift in tone will be recorded. The plan is simple. Let them talk. Let them reveal themselves. People like Mitchell and Eleanor never stay polite for long when they think no one important is listening. Luke thinks it's just another family gathering. He's happy, oblivious, bringing flowers and a bottle of wine Madison picked out. She arrives in something far too formal for my living room, all smiles and superiority. Mitchell looks faintly amused by my cute home. Eleanor comments on the wallpaper, "Quaint." I play the perfect hostess. I serve roasted chicken, fresh bread, lemonade. I ask gentle questions, steer the conversation toward money, legacy, stability, all the words that make them itch. It doesn't take long. Mitchell starts hinting again at business ventures. Eleanor chimes in about joint accounts and responsibility. Madison laughs like she's in on a joke I'm not supposed to get. I nod, take notes in my head, smile when appropriate. Because this isn't a lunch. It's an interview. And by the time dessert is done, I'll know exactly how to end their performance and make sure it's their last. They arrive. They sneer at my small home. They make themselves too comfortable. Mitchell arrives first, stepping out of the black SUV like royalty surveying a peasant's cottage. He eyes the fence, the narrow driveway, the worn steps. I hear him murmur something about quaint charm with a tone that makes it clear he means the opposite. Eleanor follows in silken heels too high for my wood floors. She looks around like she's afraid of catching modesty. "It's lovely," she says, lips tight. "So, cozy." Madison sweeps in last, clicking her tongue as she surveys my living room. "You should really try those open-concept renovations," she suggests, eyes lingering on the old ceiling fan. I smile warmly, unfazed. "Tea?" They accept. Of course they do. People like this enjoy pretending to slum it. For a day. It makes them feel generous. Human. They sit too comfortably, Eleanor rearranging cushions like she owns the place, Mitchell spreading his legs as if he's settling into a country club lounge. Madison takes out her phone and starts filming a video in my kitchen, captioning it, "Old World Charm," with a fake British accent. I bring out sandwiches on a chipped porcelain platter and pour tea from the antique kettle I inherited from my grandmother. "It's not fancy," I say, "but it's honest." Mitchell chuckles. "Sometimes simplicity is best, though I imagine Luke's lifestyle will look a little different soon." Eleanor hums in agreement. "We've always believed in strategic growth. Marriage, after all, is a merger as much as it is a union." I nod along, as though I haven't already read their blueprints. That's a beautiful way to put it. They continue on, speaking freely now, relaxed, unfiltered. convinced I'm harmless. Good. That's exactly what I want. I leave a folder on the table. Madison opens it. Her face changes color. Dessert is lemon bars. Eleanor picks at hers. Mitchell's on his third. I excuse myself briefly to the kitchen and come back with a folder in hand. Aged, creased, nothing flashy. I place it on the table beside Madison. Oh, I say casually. I almost forgot. I found something you might find interesting. She blinks. What is it? Just a little family history, I say. She opens it, still smiling, and then freezes. Inside, photos of the study, copies of the flowchart, the engagement strategy, bank statements, side-by-side comparisons of Mitchell's past shell companies and their closed lawsuits, court records, confidential settlements, highlighted headlines of 3 other sudden engagements in the last decade, all with eerily similar wording in press releases. I sip my tea and watch her face shift from amused to confused to pale. Eleanor leans in. What is that, dear? Madison fumbles to close the folder. Nothing. Just something from earlier. Mitchell, curious now, reaches for it, but Madison grips it tightly. Her voice is sharp. It's personal. The room stills. I smile sweetly. I thought transparency was important in a marriage, or a merger. Mitchell clears his throat. Eleanor frowns. Madison avoids my eyes. I let the silence bloom. Let them wonder how much I know, how much I've shared. Let them squirm, because the game has shifted. And now they're on my board. I calmly tell them I know everything. And I'm not just some poor fool. The silence stretches until it hums. Madison sits rigid, eyes darting between me and the folder as though she can will it out of existence. Mitchell's jaw tightens. Eleanor's fingers curl around her teacup so tightly the china trembles. Luke glances between us, confused, sensing something sour in the air, but not yet knowing what. Is there something wrong? He asks finally. I take a slow sip of tea before answering. That depends, I say softly, on how much truth everyone here is prepared to handle. Madison's voice cracks first. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do, I say gently. The folder in front of you, the study in your father's house, the bank accounts, the sealed settlements, the men before Luke. Mitchell's chair scrapes back. Now hold on. I raise a hand, calm and deliberate. Please, don't insult my intelligence. I've seen the documents, every signature, every name, every false story you've told. Eleanor sets down her teacup without a word. Mitchell's face flushes an angry red, but I keep my tone steady, measured, polite, the way people like them understand power. I know who you are, I continue, and I know what you do. You marry into families with money. You drain accounts. You hide behind NDAs. You leave people ruined and silent. But that ends here. Luke blinks, stunned. Mom, what are you saying? I'm saying, I reply, turning toward him, that you were never the love story they pretended to write. You were an investment. A transaction. Madison stands suddenly, eyes glassy. That's not true. Then open the folder, I say softly. Explain it to him. No one moves. I lean back, unhurried. You thought I was just a simple old cleaning lady, I say, letting the words sink in. You saw humility and mistook it for ignorance. That's your mistake, not mine. Mitchell's breathing quickens. Eleanor's gaze drops to the floor. I fold my hands. You wanted my son's future, but I'm the one who built it, and I protect what I build. They try to shift blame. Madison cries. Mitchell blames her. Eleanor stays silent. It begins like a dam breaking, quiet at first, then chaos. Mitchell lunges for the folder, flipping through the pages with wild eyes. "Where did you get this?" he demands. "This is private information. Confidential." "Illegal?" I ask calmly. Funny word for something true. He rounds on Madison. "I told you to destroy everything!" Madison's voice wavers. "You said she wouldn't find out. You said it was handled." Eleanor whispers, "Please, Mitchell, stop." But he doesn't hear her. He's unraveling. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" He spits at Madison. "Do you realize who this woman is now?" Madison bursts into tears, big, dramatic ones, the kind designed for sympathy. "I didn't mean for it to go this far. I love him." Luke looks like he's been dropped into someone else's nightmare. "What is happening?" he stammers. Mitchell slams the folder shut. "She's manipulating you, son. That's what people like her do. They twist things. She probably fabricated all this." "I fabricated nothing," I interrupt quietly. "Every page came from your own files and your own staff." Eleanor finally speaks, her voice a whisper. "It's over, Mitchell." He glares at her. "Don't you dare take her side." "There's no side," she murmurs. "There's just the truth." Madison sobs harder, mascara streaking down her face. "Luke, please, believe me. I didn't know about the money. My parents handled all that." Mitchell snorts. "Liar. You were part of every step." The room fractures. Accusations ricochet off the walls. Through it all, I sit perfectly still, because panic is its own confession. They're showing Luke everything I needed him to see. The selfishness, the greed, the rot under all that polish. When the shouting fades, the only sound left is Madison's trembling breath. Luke stands there silent, the betrayal settling heavy in his chest. I meet his eyes. "Now you know, sweetheart," I say softly. "Some people wear refinement like perfume, expensive, intoxicating, and gone the moment it's tested by truth." I ask them to leave. They do, red-faced, stunned, humiliated. The room is a battlefield of silence and shattered illusions. No one speaks. Madison stares at her hands. Mitchell fumes but says nothing. Eleanor looks older than she did an hour ago, like the mask of elegance has finally cracked from the strain. I stand slowly. No theatrics. No raised voice. Just steady, deliberate grace. "I think that's enough for today," I say. Mitchell straightens, trying to recover his authority. "You've crossed a line." "No," I reply, meeting his eyes. "I drew one, and you tripped over it in $1,000 shoes." Madison stands too quickly, knocking her glass over. She dabs at the spill with a napkin she doesn't see. Her fingers tremble. Her voice is thin. "Luke, please." Luke doesn't answer. He doesn't even look at her. I walk to the door and open it. "I won't call the police, but if I see any of you near my home or my son again, I'll let your past speak louder than your charm." Mitchell storms past me without a word. Eleanor nods once, almost respectfully. Madison lingers, as if hoping this is all a nightmare and someone will wake her up. She finally leaves, her heels clicking hollow on the porch. The door closes behind them with a weight that feels like justice. I don't smile. I don't gloat. I simply breathe. Because now the performance is over. The masks are off. And my son is finally seeing the stage for what it was. Luke confronts me. I finally tell him everything. Show him the evidence. He breaks down. He doesn't speak for a long time. After the car disappears down the road, he just stands in the living room, still and pale. like the truth has pulled the floor out from under him. "You knew," he finally says. "I suspected," I answered gently. "Then I knew." He runs a hand through his hair, pacing. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "Because you were in love, and I needed you to see it, not just hear it from me." I walk over to the coffee table and place the folder in front of him. It's all there. Their history, the fraud, the marriages, the money trails, and yes, what Madison said about you when she thought I wasn't listening. His hands tremble as he flips through the pages. His mouth hardens, then softens, then breaks. "I thought she loved me," he whispers. I sit beside him but don't touch him yet. "You loved her. That's what matters. Your love was real. Hers was rehearsed." His shoulders shake. He tries to hold it in, but I see it. The collapse. The heartbreak that comes when the future you imagine turns out to be a performance you were never truly cast in. "I would have given her everything," he says, barely audible. "I know," I say. "That's why I couldn't let her take it." And finally, he turns to me. He leans his head on my shoulder like he used to as a boy when the world felt big and unfair and confusing. And I hold him. Because truth hurts, but love, real love, holds steady through the break. Luke calls off the engagement. Madison tries to win him back. Too late. It happens quietly. No grand announcement, no dramatic confrontation. Just a call. Luke meets Madison at a cafe near her family's estate. Neutral ground. She arrives dressed carefully, soft sweater, hair down, eyes rehearsed to look remorseful but hopeful. She still thinks she can fix this. He doesn't touch her hand when she reaches across the table. He doesn't even sip the coffee she ordered for him, just the way you like it. He listens. Calm, Madison pleads, tells him she was pressured by her parents, that she didn't mean to deceive him, that it was just about securing a future. "But I loved you," she says, eyes glistening. "I still do." He nods. "I believe you think you did." She stiffens. "Luke, you were playing a role," he says, voice steady. "And maybe, for a while, I was too. But I'm done pretending. I want something real, not something curated to impress dinner guests or fill a financial gap." She reaches again. "We can start over." He shakes his head. "You wanted the version of me that fit your plan. But I come with a mother who built herself from nothing, who taught me to stand tall even when I'm underestimated. If you couldn't respect her, you were never going to understand me." Tears fall. Madison's mascara begins to run. "So that's it?" Luke stands. "That's it." He leaves without looking back. And this time, the performance ends without applause. Back in my real home, I return a framed photo to the shelf. I say, "Some people wear masks to hide weakness. I wore one to protect my son." It's quiet again, the kind of quiet that feels earned. Sunlight pours in through the kitchen window. My hands move slowly, deliberately, dusting, folding, returning things to their rightful place. I take out the photo from the drawer. Luke at 10, grinning, gap-toothed, arms around me in front of our old apartment building. No filters, no pretense, just joy. I wipe the frame clean, then walk to the bookshelf and slide it back into its spot, next to the books he used to pretend to read just to stay close to me in the evenings. There's peace in the silence. Not emptiness. Peace. I think about all the roles I've played in life. Mother, widow, business owner, retired cleaning lady. But the one that mattered most was protector. Even if it meant wearing a mask of simplicity while hiding a steel backbone behind a warm smile. I look at the photo one more time and murmur, Some people wear masks to hide weakness. I wore one to protect my son. And I smile, because I'd do it all again, without hesitation.